Can you hear me from here?
Yeah.
If I stand here, that's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sweating like an outlaw. I am supposed to be promoting this book, but I've made the bold, brave, gunslinging choice of reading brand new material. I don't know what I'm thinking here. Okay. So this is from a novel in progress called Kept Animals that takes place mostly in Topanga Canyon, California on a horse ranch. You think I could have found something that involved horses, but no, I'm going to read to you from a section about it's two families, a Hollywood family and a ranch hand family. And the ranch hand family is basically responsible for the death of the Hollywood family's young 2-year-old son. So what you need to know for this section is that the father of the Hollywood family is named Everett Price, and he is an Oscar-winning actor. The wife, Sarah, has had a nervous breakdown, and this section is told from the point of view of their 15-year-old daughter, Vivian. I should also mention that Vivian has a taboo but strictly phone relationship with her English teacher who's married, Mr. McLeod. All right. Is there anything else I'm supposed to tell you? Oh yeah, and this takes place in 1993, and to firmly plant you in that place, this is called, I'm calling this section the year before Pulp Fiction was released. There was no sign of it from PCH, no billboard, no announcement of where her father had squirreled away her mother. Just a sharp left, and then the bluffs of Malibu. The ocean and a seemingly endless stucco wall painted the same color as the surrounding field of parched grass, a brush fire beige. The parking lot was tucked away, and as they turned in, Vivian saw it was littered with Mercedes, BMWs, Porsches, all shades of gray. I told you it was nice, Everett said. Who else is here? Vivian asked. Everyone, Everett said, as if they'd been on a waiting list. At the entry gate was the lone demure sign, Cliffside Refuge. Vivian smiled. It's a wildlife sanctuary. It's a spa. It's rich folks on the brink. Cliffside. Don't be funny, Everett said. Within the walls of Cliffside, the grass was alarmingly green. A man-made pond so clear it looked chlorinated was surrounded by neatly spaced bungalows. The sound of croaking frogs and the titter of birds was ever present. Piped in, Vivian thought. Their first visit, Everett went in alone and Vivian sat and looked at the far wall of the property, a wall that blocked the view to the ocean, wondering about the conversation that had made that particular wall come to be. For several weeks, Vivian visited with Everett and her mother talked to them mostly about Cliffside, as if it were where she lived out of convenience, neither temporary nor out of necessity. The meals are so lovely. But it wasn't as if she were amnesia blank. The therapist said that when she did speak about Charlie, that's the son, it was in fact in the past tense. All the same, the shrink said, it could take months for her to come out of such a shock. Everett seemed to have heard all he needed to hear. There was a shift in his posture, a drooping, I've got auditions, he said, explaining that Carmen, the housekeeper, would take Vivian the next time she wanted to go. When Vivian finally got through without his wife answering, McLeod was all syrupy concern. I'm fucking fine, okay, Vivian said. I don't want to talk about it anymore. What do you want to talk about? I think I want to be a writer, Vivian said. Oh, McLeod said, you're not fine at all. Whenever Vivian went to see her mother now, she was escorted by a white-vested orderly to one of the white Adirondack chairs that edged the lily-padded pond. Vivian and her mother sat in the chairs as if they were on vacation, Vivian listening for a glitch in the wildlife soundtrack. They never spoke of Charlie. They never cried. Anytime the conversation turned toward any topic of sensitivity, her mother lifted one forbidding hand and Vivian changed the subject. Vivian had no interest in upsetting her mother. On her last visit in August, they were discussing the hypothetical purchase of a cat when a frumpled man with the beginnings of a beard came over and sat down on the other side of Sarah. The three of them sat there in silence for a beat, and then the man said, as if sorting out a test question, the birds are real, right? Clearly he was new. Vivi, her mother said, this is John. John, this is Vivian, my daughter. John leaned forward, then slumped back into his chair. She's real, John said. I mean, she's not dead. He said this in a way that made it clear he knew why her mother was at cliffside, and Vivian watched Sarah for a reaction, though none appeared. Vivian realized then that this John was John Travolta. Apologies for the impersonations, there is none. John Travolta of Grease fame, though his hair was now long and flat, greasy, an extra 40 pounds tacked on, and Vivian felt an extra layer of sad had been added to the whole situation. You're the one that I want, now looping in her head. I'm a big fan, John said, of your dad, Everett. Well, actually, he can't sing for shit, and I'm actually not a fan, I just lied. In truth, I kind of hate the guy, but then maybe that's just my jealousy talking. But they tell me I'm coming back, Royale with cheese. Still, I'm jealous, all right. Except for the dead kid. That part would be unbearable. Vivian leaned forward to see his face, finding it appeared just as it sounded, all of this said through the maniacal grin of a Cheshire cat, despite the tear rolling down his round cheek. Vivian tried to catch her mother's eye. John is having a hard time regulating emotion or filtering what he says, her mother stated, matter of fact. I find it refreshing. Her gaze was resting on the far wall. You do? Vivian asked. Was this it? Was this all Vivian needed to do then? To just come out and say what she needed to say? To ask what needed asking? Vivian felt suddenly afraid, young, small, ignorant. John Travolta was whistling now, as if testing the bird recording, seeing if he could get any of them to call back. What if, Vivian started, then hesitated. She reached and touched her mother's hand. What if you said what you felt, Mommy? What would you want to say? About what? Sarah said. One slippered foot began bouncing against the footstool. About Charlie, about what happened. Vivi, Sarah said, a pleading voice, her hand going up. There's not a single bird in this place, John said. For the money we're shelling out, we ought to have flamingos. Then he turned, staring at Vivian with his black eyes. Don't upset her. That shit-eating grin on his face above her mother, who'd now begun quietly sobbing. She blames herself. Women blame themselves for everything. You've got no real power in this world, and yet the weight of all its woes rests squarely on the shoulders of any given woman. The white-vested orderly was coming toward them, gliding down the green hillside. Is that from a script? Vivian said. What you just said to me, is that from a fucking script? No, John said, leaning back. Original. You can have it. Go ahead, write it down. Clearly, he had noted the small pad of paper Vivian had taken to carrying around. The orderly bent over Sarah, whispering to her, stroking her back. I'm sorry, Mommy, Vivian said. I didn't mean to upset her, she told the orderly. And then, standing to follow after them, she said to John, I wish you'd stop smiling. Oh, don't be sore, he said. Your Mommy will get happy again. Some things are inevitable. Vivian wished this were true. She wished he was right. The small intimacies she had once shared, the embraces she had relished as a little girl, that the joy of laughing with her mother was not as unreachable as it felt. That she was now, not forever, an unseen ship calling out to another across a berth of dark, endless ocean. Vivian wished more than anything that John Travolta would just get real.